They don't pay us to think. They pay us to know. We know we can beat them. There's no excuses why we shouldn't. Win the game, period. W is on 3, man. Let's go. W on 3. 1, 2, 3, W.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Redskins Report, a special 3-part series entitled Offseason Playbook. Now, this is part 1, the draft, which I know a lot of you are very intrigued by and what the Redskins will do. So this is part 1 of the series. Part 2 will feature free agency and what the Redskins should do and target in free agency. And finally, part 3 will target the salary cap and roster management. So there's a lot to get to with this Redskins team in the offseason. And I'm going to give you the offseason playbook, what the Redskins should do. Ultimately, they never listen to me and they generally do the wrong thing. But anyway, there's still a lot to discuss here with this football team. And so we'll start with the draft. And so there's a lot to get to with the Redskins and the 2019 NFL draft. Redskins haven't done a terrible job of drafting of late, but they still haven't done a great job either. The second round has been a nightmare for the Redskins, going all the way back to Trent Murphy and him being a second-round pick. We haven't gotten anything out of guys like Sua Cravens and Ryan Anderson. I still think is going to be an absolute bust. His claim to fame right now is forcing a fumble versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a game that we ultimately won 16-3. That's the best contribution he has given to this team thus far. And he's going into his 3rd year, and generally in your 3rd year as a second round pick, you should already be producing at a high level. Most times, teams treat second-round picks like first-round picks. They're immediately on the field in year 1, and they're a immediate contributor. We have got next to nothing out of Ryan Anderson to this point. And Darius Geis was a second-round pick last year. We got nothing out of him last year, but that was due to injury. We're hoping that Darius Geis is the player that we thought he was coming out of LSU. We will see what he provides for us if he can stay healthy in 2019. But the second round hasn't been very kind to us, but we've done a really good job in the first round. Whether you're talking about Brandon Sheriff, you're talking about Jonathan Allen, you're talking about Deron Payne, who I wasn't a huge fan of drafting last year, but he's here, and he's going to be a really good football player for us. So we've done a quality job in the first round of late, but we've got to start doing a better job in the third, especially the second, but the third, the fourth, the fifth. Jamison Crowder is a free agent. He may be back. He may not be back. We'll see what happens with him. We got to see what this Redskins team will look like. But right now, we know what the needs are. Whether Jamison Crowder is back or not, wide receiver is a need. Whether Preston Smith is back or not, to me, edge rusher is a need. So we know what the needs are on this football team. So we're going to attack them that way via the draft. But again, free agency also going to tell the story, because if the Redskins attack some of the needs via free agency, then you could kind of take them off the list via the draft. So, it kind of goes hand in hand, but we're going to talk about the draft first because that's what intrigues me the most. Alex Smith not going to be back. So for me, quarterback supersedes everything on the list the Redskins need. You'd be foolish to think that the Redskins aren't going to select a quarterback early in this draft. I think they're going to do it personally in the first round if the guy they like is there. And the guy that they like and the guy that I like aren't the same guy, but I think I know who the Redskins are going to select, and it makes me sick to my stomach. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about all of these things and then some. Make sure you leave your comment in the comment section of this video talking about what you think the Redskins should do at 15, what you think the Redskins should do at 46 in the second round, and what you think the Redskins should do ultimately in the 3rd round with the 76th overall selection. Look, if you've got a 7-round mock draft, I'd love to hear it. Leave it in the comment section. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Louie T Network, and also make sure you check out the Louie T Network podcast, available on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Music Play, TuneIn, and of course the website louietnetwork.net. Now, let's get to the draft and what I think the Redskins are going to do in 2019. Let's take a look at the Redskins selections for the upcoming draft. Right now, the Redskins own 5 picks. Now, once the compensatory picks are released, and that's going to be a lot closer towards the draft, we don't know what the compensatory picks are going to be. Right now, the projected compensatory picks for the Redskins are going to be in the 3rd, 5th, and 6th rounds. The 3rd is pretty much a lot for Kirk Cousins, so you can pretty much pencil that one in. Now, the 5th and the 6th round compensatory picks aren't guarantees. We'll see what happens with those picks. I think the Redskins are going to lock those in as well, but for sure, we don't have a 4th round pick due to the HaHa Clinton Dix trade. But that 3rd round pick that we're going to get back for Kirk Cousins leaving in free agency last year, I think is going to be a pick that we will pretty much be able to pencil in, and that's going to serve as our fourth round pick essentially. And it's actually a better pick than the fourth rounder we would have had in any event. But this is what the Redskins are looking at right now. 15th overall in the first round, 46th overall in the second, 76th in the third. Then you go to the fifth. Again, no fourth rounder due to the Clinton-Dix trade last year with Green Bay. 142nd overall in the fifth, and in the seventh round, the Redskins have the 204th overall pick. Now, again, as I mentioned, compensatory picks, third, fifth, and sixth are projected. That's not guaranteed right now. Those have not been confirmed, but that's where the Redskins are projected to land compensatory picks for the 2019 NFL Draft. Let's deal with the guarantees and the certains. We know the Redskins are selecting at 15 right now unless they trade. Out of that pick, they'll be selecting 15th in this draft. What do I think the Redskins should do here? First and foremost, you need to survey the draft and see what is available. Identify guys that you like, that you want, that you need on your football team. To me, you look at the Redskins' needs, and I don't want to get too much into roster management, as that's going to be another edition of Offseason Playbook. However, the Redskins, to me, offensively needs the following in this order. Quarterback first. You need wide receiver help second. I know we need offensive line help on the interior of the line, guard and center. I put those behind wide receiver because we showed last year that you can get by with marginal play up front as long as your tackles stay healthy. We definitely need a new center. I think if we get a new center or we get a new guard, because I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the center position if you've got a healthy guard situation where Chase Rouillet is able to play center. I think we really just need a guard, but if you want to attack center and move Chase Rouillet to guard, I'm all fine with that. Chase Rouillet, to me, has to be a part of the future on the interior of the offensive line, and to me, he's a better center than guard. And so if you attack the guard position, you get Sheriff back, you attack the guard position, I think you're good. So I moved that behind wide receiver because we just stink at receiver right now. So to me, quarterback is first. It supersedes everything. Then you got receiver. Then you got guard, center. To me, that's a combo position. And then tight end is on the back burner for me. That's a secondary need. Like Jordan Reed, you know you can't count on him for 16 games. Vernon Davis could be a cap casualty. Don't know what his future is in Washington. And then, you know, Jeremy Sprinkle is Jeremy Sprinkle. And Flanagan is a guy that they like. But we don't know what his future is as a Redskin. So tight end to me is not one that you have to attack, but if you do, I wouldn't be mad at that. You go to the defensive side of the football, to me, it starts with the edge rushers. Don't know what Preston Smith's future in Washington is. He's a free agent. I think he's going to get paid on the market. I don't think the Redskins are looking to match any kind of big deals. I know a lot of people are saying that free agent market is wide open and that there are going to be a lot of pass rushers available. I don't buy that for 1 second. DeMarcus Lawrence in Dallas is going to get a deal, or at worst be franchise tagged again. D Ford is going to be franchise tagged in Kansas City. They're not going to allow him to walk away. When you look at that market, it's going to dry up rather quickly, and then teams are going to come after secondary pass rushers like Preston Smith, who stays healthy and is productive. Contrary to popular belief, he actually does get pressure on the quarterback. Doesn't always make sacks, but he does get consistent pressure on the quarterback. I wouldn't be mad if the Redskins brought him back, but we don't have anything elite. All right, so I'd love to add an edge rusher. This is a great draft to do so. So that's the first need defensively for me. The second need would be safety. We just botched the whole safety position last year with the Monte Nicholson situation, you know, benching him. Then he gets into trouble at the end of the season with the assault. And so we don't know what his future is as a Redskin, but they took his confidence from sky high and they really threw it down to the ground. And I don't know where he stands mentally right now. And I don't know where he is in the pecking order of the Redskins safety position. They got rid of DJ Swearinger. I thought it was a mistake, but I understood why they did what they did. Nonetheless, we have nothing there. I think Clinton-Dix is actually going to be back. I wasn't pleased with his play, but I think the Redskins are going to double down on the mistake of trading for him, and so we'll see what happens with that situation. Either way, safety is a need, especially if Clinton-Dix isn't back. But then you go to cornerback. I know a lot of you think Josh Norman is going somewhere. I beg to differ. I don't think he's going anywhere. They may ask him to restructure. He may decide not to. They may cut him loose. We'll see what happens. But right now, cornerback is third on the list, because if you get Norman back and you bring back Dunny off of injury, and you start to fit in the pieces with the young guys, Fab Moreau and Greg Stroman and some of these guys that got valuable experience last year. Maybe that position isn't as bad as we think, but we'll see what happens there. And then finally, linebacker for me is a secondary need. I think with Reuben Foster's addition, he's going to get suspended. We don't know if we can trust him to stay healthy. So that's an issue onto itself. And the emergence later on in the season of the Alabama linebacker, I think we may have a little something inside. You still have Mason Foster. You may get rid of Mason Foster. You may not. Another guy that may be gone is Zach Brown. He could be gone. Salary cap number that could help the Redskins. So he could easily be on the streets. We'll see what happens. But linebacker to me is a secondary need, sort of like tight end on the other side of the football. And we're straight on the interior defensive line. All right, so you go from there to what I think the Redskins should do at 15. I think the Redskins are going to look at the quarterback position first. They understand that this is a dire need. I don't know if they're going to actually make a selection at quarterback at 15. They may ultimately have to trade up if they love a guy and they identify him as a potential franchise quarterback. They may have to trade up. You know how it is with these quarterbacks. I talk about it all the time. I talked about it on the podcast, how the Redskins have made some moves with their coaching staff, and how, you know, the quarterbacks, they get pushed up the draft board all the time. And so this is something that you got to take into consideration. If you identify a guy as a franchise quarterback that you want, that you love, you might have to move up to get him. For the Redskins, I think they love Duke quarterback Daniel Jones. I am not a fan, okay? To me, he's Ryan Tannehill, all right? Now, if the Redskins are able to allow him to, or if Daniel Jones is allowed to fall to them, I think they definitely pull the trigger at 15. There's no doubt in my mind that he's the guy, but he's not going to be around at 15. That's what we do to the quarterbacks. I fully expect 4 quarterbacks to come off the board before 15. If the Redskins want one, they're probably going to have to move up. That's how crazy the quarterback position is every single year. That being said, if none of the quarterbacks are available, or one that the Redskins don't like is available at 15, then I think you have to turn your attention to best player available. If that's a receiver, if that's a guy you like at receiver, you take him. If that's a guy at edge rusher, you take him. If that's a guy at corner or safety, you take him. It's just best player available at that point if you're the Redskins. For me, I would prefer it to either be a receiver or an edge rusher. I don't know if there's any receivers outside of N'Keal Harry that I'm actually in love with in this draft. I got to do more film study, so I can't give you the definites there. But for me, there are plenty of edge rushers that I would love to add to this football team at 15 that will be available. There are a number of different guys that can get to the quarterback. You don't necessarily have to get one in the first round either to get good production. And so it's going to be interesting. What I really don't want the Redskins to do is overreach for a player at 15. That's quarterback. Like, I would be so disappointed if the Redskins did something stupid. And they're not going to do this, because I think they understand that there's no value in reaching for a quarterback in the first round. They understand that. I don't have to tell them that. There are a lot of things the Redskins as an organization don't get. One of them isn't reaching for a quarterback. Like, they're not going to reach for Greer out of West Virginia. Like, that would be the worst thing the Redskins could do, is reach. The first 4 quarterbacks on their board are gone, and now the only guy left is Will Greer, and they reach for him at 15. That would be a monumental mistake. Hell, even trading back, picking up picks, and still selecting him, let's say 26th overall in this draft, would be an epic mistake by the Redskins, when you can get that guy in the 4th or the 5th round, 3rd round at the earliest, 5th round at the latest. You can still get you some Will Greer, most likely. So that would be a mistake. I don't see them doing that. But what I do not want to see them do either is, I really don't want to see them invest in a first-round safety. I know a lot of people like Deontay Thompson out of Alabama, and he looks like a damn good football player. I'm good, though. I don't really want to invest. Last year we had a chance to get something elite. I don't see anybody in this draft being like Derwin James, and so I probably shouldn't base it off of that, but I know what we could have had, and we didn't get that guy, and so I'm not looking to draft a safety in the first round this year. If it's a corner that you love, I'm all for it. If it's a wide receiver that you love, I'm all for it. If it's an edge rusher there that you love, I'm all for it. But for me, quarterback needs to be first. If you're looking at 15 and you're the Redskins, that needs to be the primary focus. If a guy that you like isn't there, then you need to turn your attention to best player available at one of 3 positions: wide receiver, cornerback, or edge rusher. To me, that's what you do at 15. Now, 46 for me in the 2nd round, I look at the Redskins, and I think that depending on what you do in the first round, the same thing still applies for me. best player available at a position of need for the Redskins. If that player available is a quarterback, hey, have at it. Knock yourself out. You love a guy. This is good value. You think take him at 46. If it's an edge rusher, I think that would be a great spot to land an edge rusher or a wide receiver, either one. I think there's enough depth in this draft to get you a quality wide receiver at 46. The same thing can be said for edge rusher. There are some positions where the quality of players are going to go a little bit quicker. I think you could get you an offensive interior lineman in the 3rd round. I think that's where you would need to strike there. Not in the 1st round, not in the 2nd round, but in the 3rd round. I think you can get you a quality offensive guard or center in the 3rd round and feel really good about that. With one of those picks, I think we're going to get that compensatory pick, so I wouldn't be opposed to spending one of those 2 picks, just like last year. We had an additional, or we picked up a 3rd round pick and we spent it on an offensive lineman, Jerron Christian Jr. out of Louisville. I wouldn't have a problem with selecting another offensive lineman in the 3rd round this year. So we'll see what the Redskins decide to do with the 3rd round pick that they have and what they might get in the compensatory pick. But for me, somewhere in those first 3 picks, there needs to be a quarterback selected. That's how I feel. If they wait till, the 5th round and there's a guy like Ryan Finley that they like, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But Ryan Finley, to me, isn't going to be a franchise QB in this league. But he could be a very adequate backup, a cheap option for maybe because we're going to stink this year. I really feel like we're going to be a bad football team. And we're going to find ourselves in the top 10 most likely next draft. And maybe that's when you decide to go and pull the trigger on a franchise quarterback. I think there has to be at least a developmental quarterback on the roster this year. If you don't get a franchise guy, and I've said this already, if you don't get a franchise guy, you have at least got to select a young developmental quarterback in this draft. And I don't care if it's the Jackson kid out of Buffalo or if it's Finley out of NC State. I don't care if it's Thornton out of Northwestern. There's got to be some kind of developmental quarterback at worst, at minimum, on this roster this year. If you're going franchise quarterback, it's got to be done in the 1st round. I don't think there's any other way to do that. You can't get a franchise guy. It's rare. I'm not saying you can't. I shouldn't say that. It's rare to get a franchise guy anywhere other than the 1st round. It's been proven in this league. It happens. Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, it happens where you can get a franchise quarterback in a 3rd or 4th round, but it's rare. You look around the league and you look at all the starters in this league, most of them are drafted in the 1st round. If you look at the elite ones, the very successful ones, they are all 1st round selections. So if you're going to look for a franchise quarterback, it's got to be done at 15 or moving up, really, in the draft. We'll see what the Redskins decide to do. It's going to be interesting to see what the Redskins decide to do with the 1st round pick. Do they move that pick? Do they move up? Do they trade back? Do they collect more picks? What's the value at 15 by the time they get there, and who's available? What are the Redskins targeting in free agency? How does that impact the draft? These are all things we have to ask. But right now, I just want to know, what do you think is the most important selection at 15? What should the Redskins do? Where do you think they'll turn their attention once they make the 1st round selection, in the 2nd round, and in the 3rd round? What do you think is the most important position that the Redskins have to select in the 1st round, and what player should they take? If quarterback's off the board, where do you go next? These are all things I want to know from you guys as Redskins fans. I absolutely got to hear from you guys on this topic. So that's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Offseason Playbook, the draft. Remember, I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskins spirit will never die. Redskins spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington Redskins. Be on the lookout for parts 2 and 3 of this series, where we'll dive into free agency and salary cap and roster management. What do you think the Redskins are going to do in this draft? What do you think is the most important thing that they do in this draft? And what do the first 3 rounds look like for you with this Redskins football team? 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round. And hell, you can go ahead and throw that compensatory pick in there. What do you think the Redskins are going to do over the first 3 rounds of this draft? Because that's what I think is going to be the most impactful for a roster that definitely needs an upgrade in talent. I'm your man Louie T, signing off. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the Louie T Network, and make sure you check out the podcast, Louie T Network Podcast, on iTunes, Google Music, Play, Stitcher, and of course the website louietnetwork.net. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.